Hi, everyone. So my name is Brianna Sanchez, and I'm here today with Dr. Ravi Bhasker. He is a doctor and mayor in Socorro, New Mexico. I'm very excited to have him. He's a great source of information, as well as someone that I trust. And I think today having him will shed some light on New Mexican culture. So we'll go ahead and get started. Dr. Bhasker, can you please introduce yourself and your professions?
Well, I'm Ravi Bhasker. I'm a family doctor in Socorro, and I'm also the mayor of Socorro. I've been mayor since 1990. That's about 32 years. And I was on the city council 8 years before that. And of course, I was mayor when your grandfather was on the city council also.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. How long have you practiced as a doctor, and how long have you practiced in Socorro?
Well, I have practiced as a doctor since 1975, and I've been in Socorro since 1977.
Okay. And as a doctor, you said you're a family doctor. So what does that mean that you specialize in exactly?
Family medicine has been traditionally taking care of the family. That means adults, adolescents, infants, delivering babies, doing surgery, and whatever comes through our door, we take care of that. And if we can't handle that, then our job is to refer them to another doctor who is specialized in that situation or the condition.
Awesome. I know I've seen you a few times in your office, and you've always been a great help and very awesome as a doctor.
Thank
So
you.
as a doctor, what have you seen related to health as major concerns for New Mexicans and Hispanics?
Obviously, the major concerns for Hispanics has to do with the diet and the hereditary problem of diabetes. That's really one of the main focuses of our practice when we, have people with Hispanic heritage when we do a general physical on them and do lab work, we are always looking for any kind of predilection for diabetes using a blood work that's called an A1C, HA1C, to see if they have any times that their sugars go higher. Many times when people come to the medical office, just like when I go to the dentist, I make sure I brush my teeth and I'm all ready to see the dentist. Well, many times when people come to the doctor's office to do a health check, they watch their diet beforehand, they take care of their, what they're been eating. And so many times when they come in, their blood work is pretty normal until we start doing blood work that shows us their blood tests over 3 months. And this is the HA1C. And so that's really one of the major focuses. Certainly high blood pressure, which accompanies obesity and weight problems in the Hispanic population. Certainly that's part of the problem. I think the diet, one of the things that we always focus in on when we talk about any of the long-term problems such as high blood pressure, diabetes, and even cancer. So those are the things that we look at in the Hispanic population, as we do in all populations. And we also have a large Native American population that also has some of these problems.
Awesome. You brought up a really great point. You brought up the New Mexican diet. So in your opinion, how healthy is the New Mexican diet?
Well, it's not very healthy. Enchiladas and beans and papas and potatoes and things like that are probably, if you do that every day, tortillas for breakfast, breakfast burrito with eggs and potatoes in them, it's not a very healthy diet. So there has to be some moderation as to how much carbs you take. And I think the New Mexican diet, and that goes for Anglos and Hispanics and Native Americans, it's not a good diet, generally speaking. And again, there's also a heavy emphasis on meat, and many people that have high cholesterol are really pretty high meat eaters also, and that reflects in the diet.
Mhm. Yeah, I would agree with that. So you mentioned diabetes, but is there also other problematic diseases for Hispanics and New Mexicans that you've seen?
Well, the diabetes is the biggest one with high blood pressure. And
Mhm,
then accompanying things that happen, failure of the kidneys, problems with eyes,
mhm.
a large heart, uh, decreased uh, cognitive issues because of the circulation is compromised. But all this kind of goes back to diet and diabetes and high blood pressure that sets the tone for these future illnesses like renal failure and strokes and high blood pressure.
Mhm. So have your concerns for the community's health changed or stayed the same throughout the years?
Well, I mean, they've stayed pretty much the same in that we're more aggressive in trying to change people's behaviors than we used to be. We spend time with them on diabetic instructions, on their foods. The other thing we also uh, really kind of emphasize is compliance with the medications that we're giving you, because many of the old timers, for number one, they don't want anything to do with medicine. And I have people who have come in, I'm literally come in with a blood sugar of 400, and I feel fine. I don't have a problem. And they're 70 years old. And so when I try to get them on any kind of medicine for that, that I give them on a regular basis, well, it maybe lasts a week or two, but then I see them back at 3 months and they've stopped taking their medicine. The other problem in New Mexico is the poverty level. And even though some people have Medicaid, a lot of them have Medicare, they're on fixed incomes. And when it comes to buying medication, insulin, and some other types of medications, it gets very expensive. And so, what they are doing, many of them are rationing their medicine out. People who can't afford their insulin. So, what they do is they take it every other day, they take it every third day, or they take it for the first 15 days and then they quit taking it. And that's a tough situation.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you touched on something that I wanted to bring up also. Basically, you mentioned that sometimes people refuse to go to the doctors or they don't really take the medicine as directed. So, would you say there is a cultural aspect that contributes to seeking medical care?
You cut out a little bit when you back up.
Yeah, is there a cultural aspect that contributes to seeking medical care in your opinion? So, like you had mentioned, many people have stopped taking the medicine that's directed to them or they refuse to see the doctor. So, would you agree that there is a cultural aspect that contributes to them seeking medical care?
I mean, I've only practiced in New Mexico. That was the start of my practice. That's where I've been. The Hispanic population is about 50-50 in the state. In Socorro, it's a little more weighted. It's probably 55-60% Hispanic and Native American. I don't want to label a group of people saying that they're more non-compliant. Uh, I'm not sure what it's like in New Hampshire or what
Mhm.
it's like in, maybe you have some information on that. But there's no question that people are a little more set in their way and their traditions in New Mexico, and they'd rather go to the curandera or somebody else that they feel they believe in rather than coming to the doctor and taking the medication.
Mhm.
So that's yerba mansa and stuff like that. I always get that thrown at me. I think that yerba mansa was great. I said, well, I gave you some medicine that actually fixed you too. Yerba mansa was just an add-on. So there's certainly a historical aspect of older Hispanics anyway. That had their babies at home, and I'm talking about people that were born in the 20s and 30s and now are 80 or 90 years old. But they have a lot of hesitancy in modern medicine as far as I don't want to take the shot. I'd rather take the pills, and then they don't take the pills, and the shot is the only thing because they don't have enough insulin in their system. Or, well, it's hard for me to lose weight. I can't walk very well. Well, you don't really lose weight by exercise. It's all diet.
Mhm.
One apple is 100 calories, and you have to walk a mile just to walk off 100 calories. So it's mostly diet that you need to concentrate on. And it is difficult, but I think it's difficult across the board. People just don't want to, they basically are what do they call it? I mean, they're just denying their illness and what it takes to get it better.
Yes, I agree with that. So Dr. Basker, do you think poverty affects patients' ability to receive healthcare? And what can people who cannot afford healthcare or doctor visits do to improve their health?
Well, it's a bad situation. I mean, the poverty level in Socorro is about 26% to 27%. That means I think poverty levels, maybe you know better than I do. I think it starts around income of about 25,000. And maybe even be lower than that, but their ability to get medical care, of course, Medicaid kicks in, but if you're working and you're making 23 or 24,000, Medicaid may not be able to cover you unless you have 4 or 5 kids. So you have to, you kind of tend to fall through the cracks. And in our practice, we see everybody and then we work out a budget for them. We never refuse service to anybody, but we need some sort of medical insurance that covers 100% of people in the United States. And that means New Mexico. And there's a lot of people that the number one, they can't come and see the doctor because it's expensive. And number two, when they do get the medications that are right, they go to the drugstore, and you go to Walmart, you either pay or they won't give you the medicine. I mean, that's just the way it works. It's like you want to go buy a groceries, you can't just walk out without paying. And the problem is that a lot of people just can't afford their medications. And that's part of the problem. Medicine has exploded. What it costs to get medicine these days compared to 20 years ago. I have asthma and I have an inhaler. That inhaler, my copay used to be $20. It's $70 now. I mean, it's just unbelievable how much more the costs have gone. So there are, clinics. We have a clinic in Socorro that will give you care on a graduated scale, depending on how much, money you have. And that's a Presbyterian Medical Services, not the Presbyterian Medical Group. But I would suggest trying to get into a doctor's office and try to work out some sort of a payment plan. And if you're having trouble, and do it early on. Don't wait till something happens.
Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you for that. So Dr. Basker, you had mentioned curanderas and holistic medicine. So in New Mexico, remedios, which is considered natural and holistic medicine, has been used for many years. What is your thoughts and experience with remedios?
A little cutting out a little bit.
So in New Mexico, remedios, natural and holistic medicine, have been used for many years. What is your thoughts and experience with that?
Well, I'm all for it. I'm all for it as long as it doesn't poison them and they're forthcoming as to what they're doing. And I think remedios and curanderas, they've been doing this for a long, long time. I never discourage people from getting care there. But I also tell them to be aware that if you're not getting better, come and see the doctor and see if there's something can be done. And I'm hoping, and the curanderos I've known, or the people who do holistic medicine, they basically will tell them, hey, you know what, I can't take care of this. Go see the doctor. And that, I have people who do that. Now, some of the really far out stuff, like these sweat lodges and things like that, I'm kind of against that because there's been some big problems with that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So to wrap up the health portion of this interview, what advice can you give Hispanics and New Mexicans to improve their health?
I lost you again.
So what advice can you give Hispanics and New Mexicans to improve their health?
You have to move something because I can't, you froze for a while. About the advice to Hispanics.
Okay, is it working? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so the question is, what advice can you give Hispanics and New Mexicans to improve their health?
I think the biggest thing is watch your diet, watch your weight, make sure you're what they call the BMI is below 22, 23 for your height and weight. That's the biggest thing. Number two, if you are found with diabetes, and many people who have diabetes are very, very healthy, it could be genetic. So make sure you take your medications. It's important to be compliant with the medications you get. And number 3 is get your kids checked. If you have high blood pressure, if you have a history of cancer, if you have a history of breast cancer, if you have a history of diabetes, let your kids know that they need to be checked as they grow up. So that's preventative health. And get your vaccinations. I've had many people deny, their vaccination many times. And that's not just COVID. I'm talking about flu shots, pneumonia shots, shingles shots, and we got shots for everything vaccine wise. And I recommend getting those preventative health things early so that you don't suffer those things when you're 60 and 70.
Mhm. Yes, that's really great advice. Thank you for sharing that. So now to switch gears, I'd like to talk about your experience as mayor. So for how many years have you served as mayor? And can you talk about your experiences, challenges, and accomplishments?
Well, people will say, well, I've been mayor for 32 years.
Mhm.
And if it had not been people like your grandfather who were on the city council, we wouldn't have accomplished much. But for our small town, the things that we have always concentrated on is what we call infrastructure, things you don't really see.
Mhm.
Sewers, waters, road. We're trying to get our broadband going. Utilities such as natural gas, trying to keep the rates down. I think we've kept our utility rates very low compared to the rest of the communities. One thing I'm proud of is that our gross receipts tax, if you look at Belen or TRC or Los Lunas, our gross receipts tax is 7.8%. The gross receipts tax, I think, in Belen is about 8.2 or 8.5. I think Los Lunas is the same way. I know TRC is. So one of the things we try to do with the cost of living is we've tried to keep that cost of living down. The other thing we've done, for 30 years, we've provided 130 school students jobs for 7 weeks at a time, and then we pay them a stipend of about $700. We've done that for about 30 years, and normally the average, of course, the pandemic has been difficult, but the average is about 130 students every year, and those students work at our city. They work at the NRO. They work at Tech. They work at the county. So they get an experience. I can give you one person, Delilah Vega, who worked for us. Must have been 20, 25 years ago, doing utility stuff. And now she's the utility director of Las Cruces. So, that we're very proud of how we deal with our youth recreation. That's the youth on recreation and our soccer program. The big program now that's exploding that the city supports is wrestling. I mean, wrestling has just gone through the roof as how many people are doing it. We work with a school system. We support the athletes many times the athletes, when they were about, 50 miles away from home, the school couldn't pay for their food. So the city, helped them pay for that. Of course, what your grandfather did, hit the Christmas food drive was a tremendous success. I mean, I venture to say over 500 people, benefited from that kind of stuff. So we're doing social services. We work with the senior center. But those successes that I have had are basically trying to give the quality of life to people in Socorro. So that's basically it.
Awesome. Well, that's really great news. And I'm happy to hear that a lot of great work is being done in Socorro. I have a lot of love for that town. So it makes me happy to hear all of that great news. So based off your experience as mayor, what have you seen as major concerns for Socorro, both economically and socially?
Well, economically, it's a small town. Unlike Las Lunas, it's not as close to Albuquerque as Las Lunas is, and Las Lunas is booming. But number one, we needed basic things such as running water, sewer. We have an airport, we have a landfill, we have a hospital. We need medical doctors to make sure that everybody's taken care of medically. We have an ambulance system. Those are the basic things that a city needs to have. On top of that, is the, excuse me, just a second. Your question was, tell me again what your question was.
What have you seen as major concerns for Socorro, both economically and socially?
Okay, so economically, we've needed to update our broadband, and that was very good that we're getting that done by the end of the year. We'll get a gig. We'll be able to buy a gig if we need to. Right now, it wasn't even 8 to 10 megabytes, and that was horrible. So that's one thing. The other thing is utility rates. Facebook, when it came to Las Lunas, they were asking for a very low electric rate, which is, it gets technical, but it's 5 cents a kilowatt. In the city of Socorro, we're paying 17 cents a kilowatt, and it's just hurting us so badly about utilities. Thirdly, the cannabis explosion, we've gotten all kinds of people now opening cannabis shops in Socorro. That's going to run on its own, but we need to get some manufacturing. We need to get our school systems to get some vocational training so that the kids that are coming out of school can get work at White Sands Missile Range. They can get work at New Mexico Tech. And so they have those, they don't have to go to school to get that as far as university, but get the vocational talent, the vocational education so you can, and these jobs are very good jobs, electricians, plumber, IT to get accomplished through the school system. But infrastructure, the employment pool, and the cost of living has to be stable to get economic growth.
Yes, I agree with that. So, how has poverty affected the county and city of Socorro?
Well, we traditionally have a very poor, community, and it certainly affects people in housing. We have, speaking to the high school, we have 40 high school students that are homeless. I mean, they don't have a place to wash their clothes. They may be sleeping on a sofa at a relative's, and then they go to a different relative. So housing is really hurting us as far as poverty is concerned. And the rents have gone up where a one bedroom used to be maybe 300 or 400. Now it's at 600 or 700. There are certain help, such as Region 7, that subsidize that, but they only have so many vouchers and they're used up. So the other problem is food. During the pandemic, school was out. The number of kids that could not get their breakfast and get their food, required food, went up from 25% to 40 or 50%. So those are the things that affected us as far as poverty is concerned. Right now, our biggest problem is trying to get people to come back to work from the pandemic. I think every business is in town is looking for people to work. So we need to get people who to $15 back to work. That's going to be an important thing. And I don't know if the poverty, because they were getting benefits, helped them. I'm not sure exactly, what it is that's keeping people from coming back. But that's across the board in every town, I think, that you can't get people to come back to work.
Yeah, definitely. So, from your experience, would you say that you believe the unemployment rate is high in Socorro?
The employment rate is very low in Socorro.
Mhm.
But there's a group of people that are not even in the market that are not getting counted
Mhm.
because the unemployment benefits ran out
Mhm.
and they still haven't come back to work. Normally, and I think it's even lower than that right now.
Mhm.
And it's partly because there's a problem with the way we count unemployment, and it's usually because who's getting unemployment benefits. That's how they check unemployment rates. And I don't think there's some people that are being counted because they're not getting benefits.
Mhm. Okay. So, is there a food shortage in Socorro, and what are your thoughts on food sovereignty?
Well, there is a food shortage, and and every lunchtime there's about 60, 50 to 60 people that come to the Puerto Seguro, which is which is our food pantry. And then the Roadrunner Food Bank brings semi literally once a week. So definitely there's a food shortage. And food prices have gone up about 8%.
Okay, that's good. So, are there programs in Socorro that bring information and help to those in need? Can you
Oh,
expand on those
it cut
programs?
out again.
Okay. Can you expand on the programs in Socorro that bring information and help to those in need?
We have one basic program that's called Scope, and it goes into the schools and talks to the kids, to the Healthy Kids program. We also have people that budget billing process. The mental health clinic has people that are coming for mental health problems. Of course, CYFD and social services are also available in the city, as are disability programs. There's one group that does help people get disability payments or get qualified for disability on our plaza, and they've been there now for 7, 8 years.
Okay, good. That's really good. So Dr. Basker, you had mentioned, my grandfather, and I know you were great friends with my grandpa Toby and my grandma Ermi, and you were able to see how the food drive kind of played out throughout many, many years. So I was just wondering, on your opinion, how does the food drive help the community?
Well, number one, it points out the fact that there's many, many people that are, food deprived, because when he put that together, literally he ran out very, very quickly. And there, like I said, anywhere from 400 to 500 people that would get the food that he was putting out. So that was number one. It pointed to the fact that how many people are short of food. The other thing, basically, it gave, because sometimes, people, they were trying to buy presents and things like that for their loved ones, but yet they had a need to buy food. So I think that was a big help there. And again, it was just a pride in the community that we were doing something, and not just, oh, well, people are hungry, we're just going to sit around and do nothing. I mean, he took the effort, and he just wasn't just 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. I think it was what, 40, 42 years? How many
50.
years did he do that? I mean, it was just unbelievable how many years he did that. And I think people, 50 years? So,
Yes.
that's you can put that up against anybody in the United States. I think it really pointed out, number one, that the neighbors want to help each other. Number two, that there are people in need. And I think that really pointed that out also.
Yes, I agree with that. Thank you for shedding light on that. So I have one final question before we wrap up our interview for today. What are your hopes for the future of New Mexicans and Socorro?
Well, New Mexico has got a big problem with education. It's got a big problem with crime. And I'd throw this in here, but I'm running for representative in my district now, which is a state position. And I just feel that we need to put more money into schools so that we can get kids that are better educated. The dropout rate is unbelievable. The graduation rate, and I think in Socorro, is like 70% or 75% out of high school. I'd like to see that go up. But sometimes it's a little discouraging, because we're all focusing on cannabis, and we're focusing on the issues that really aren't going to help us. I would like to see lower taxes in corporations. We need to get more Fortune 500. We don't have one Fortune 500 company in the state of New Mexico. My daughter lives in Arkansas, and we always think, oh, Arkansas is so backwards and everything. They have 5. And so I just think that we need to concentrate on trying to get, Facebook was great. We're getting Amazon fulfillment centers and things like that. But we need corporations that manufacture cars and, you go across the road from Anthony, New Mexico to Texas, it's a unbelievable difference, as to the manufacturing industry down there. So I'm hoping that we come around to it. There was a big windfall of money all of a sudden, but I think giving out $150 checks is a very Band-Aid issue. I mean, we need to get our schools, the high schools, the teachers have gotten more money. We need to get the vocational training. So those are things that I'm hoping will uplift New Mexico. But we're always on the bottom of every survey that's done, and we need to do something about that. In my opinion, it's education and tax relief and trying to attract businesses that are nationally known,
Yeah,
and not just the service industry.
Yeah, I agree with those comments. Thank you for, shedding light on that. I have a lot of hope for our future as well. Dr. Bhasker, are there any concluding thoughts that you may have relevant to this discussion?
No, just good luck to you, and I'm so happy that you even thought of me to do this. I think that's great. I think, and like you said, your sister is becoming a doctor of pharmacy. I hope she doesn't leave the state. That's the other problem. I hope you don't leave the state and set up your own communication network or whatever you are going to do. You do it in New Mexico. So I think that's great, and I appreciate you, thinking about me and trying to get my ideas about what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. You were a great source of information, and I've always respected you and have thought so highly of you. You've always been a great family friend. So thank you so much for partaking in this interview. And I hope you have a great day. And I hope that you can continue to
I
do
cut you
awesome.
out. You cut out a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. All right.
Okay. I hope you can
Yes.
continue.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Bhasker, and good luck, with all your contributions to making Socorro a better place. Thank you.
Great. Well, if you think of anything else, let me know.
Okay, I will. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All righty.
All right. Bye.
I'm gonna sign off. Bye-bye.
Bye.